My name's Dharmesh Patel and I'm an actor.
And you were born in the UK.
I was born in the UK. I was raised in London. I was born in Kettering, raised in London. Moved to Harrow when I was about 12 and then went to uni in Liverpool. And then travelled round ever since, really, like a hobo.
And you feel London is your home.
London is, all, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. It's funny because whenever you go across the world, people always say, where are you from? And I always find myself saying, I'm from London. I never say I'm from England. And it's strange because when you come back to London, you feel like you're home. It's a strange concept, I know it sounds bizarre, but we've all got our hometowns. And I think that's what the world's becoming now. It's not becoming about what country are you from. I think it's about what place are you from and what that does to you. Because I don't know what it is to be English. I know what it is to be someone from London. I know the people of London. People in Britain they're so versatile, they're so diverse. You know, that there isn't just one type of person. And I think that's what London is for me. It's a cacophony of colours and cultures and music and art and theatre and football. Football's very important to me. So yeah, London is home. Yeah.
How did you find home?
Do you know, I know when I'm home when my shoulders drop. When I'm in London, I feel my shoulders drop. The moment I get onto the train, the underground. And I know it sounds strange, but you relax into a pace and it's very fast, it's very energetic, but there's also a serenity to it. There's also a feel. It's hard to explain a feeling. It's hard to explain something that you can't explain. It's just something you know? Yeah.
So let's talk about the journey that you've taken in your life then, because you obviously have to start from a place, and a home is a very good place to start from.
Yeah, it's a great place.
So how do you see your artistic journey?
Till now, I think my artistic journey began as a kid. It was a lot of... I grew up my parents are immigrants. They came with £26 and nothing else. And you quickly realise you don't have toys to play with, you don't have anything but your imagination. And I had 3 older sisters, I never had brothers, but we had loads of animals in the house. And so I'd go on these little adventures with the dog that I used to have. And I know that sounds bizarre, but when you don't have any materialistic stuff, what you quickly find is your imagination becomes your playground. And that, for me, was when I kind of thought, looking back, I kind of go, yeah, that's where it began. As a kid, growing up with not very much and having to make my own fun and not having many friends because you're the only Hindu person in Whitechapel, because it was a predominantly Bangladeshi community and there was my one black friend, Clifton, and we used to get into a lot of fights as kids because we were the outcasts in that community. And so we would have our own adventures and stuff. And my parents had a shop, so we were well known in the community. I've gone off track. What was the question?
That's absolutely great, because that's the journey, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's where it began, I think. That's where my journey began. Playing with Clifton, going to the park with a dog and going on adventures. And my sister... she was always into dance. She was into Kathak dance, and she still is. She still does it. And she would dress me up, and she would make me do dance. And we'd watch like Bollywood films, classic Bollywood films, black and white films, and there was a lot of singing and dancing in that. So I was always surrounded by it, always. But I don't think I was ever conscious of it. For me, it was just part of my upbringing. And then when I went to school, I had a brilliant drama teacher who invited me to this world of theatre, who I think she gave me the bug for it. But I knew I could never do it because it was never an option. It was never something I'd take seriously. I still don't take it very seriously because It's a bizarre concept to be paid to do what you love in this world, isn't it? It is. Think of this 7 billion people on this planet and how many of those people actually get to do what they love. And you quickly realise that you're actually in a very privileged position, but not when you're younger. I think it comes with age. And that sounds condescending, but it's because people said it to me when I was growing up, but it's true. With age, I think you begin to realise what's important and what you want to do with your career. And then you meet other people along the way. And I went to a place called Hope Street in Liverpool, which was a physical theatre school. And that one thing moulded me into who I am today. Because I met the likes of Paul Hunter and Madani Yunus and Improbable and Complicité and people like that who made theatre more than what we know it, what I knew of it at the time. Very bland, very sort of simplistic, nothing very exciting. And when you meet those people, you quickly realise of what you want to achieve with your career and the people you want to admire and the people you want to look up to. And when you realise that, I think you begin to think about the work that you want to do and the influences that they've had over your work. And so you quickly forget about the colour of your skin. For me, it was very much about that. It was forgetting about who I am or where I'm from. Although that will always stay with me, I think the older I get, the more decisions I get to make for myself. And I choose not to be a colour. I choose not to be a face for a type of theatre. I choose not to be typecast, I hope. Because when you look at the likes of Paul Hunter, and he will always have a magnificent effect on my career, you quickly realise nothing can stop you as long as your imagination is still working, as long as you're still presenting work which excites you and which you want to explore and you want to share. And he does everything. He writes, he directs, he's a performer, a phenomenal director, and a brilliant improviser, him and Hayley Carmichael, who have Told by an Idiot. And you quickly realise those are the people that I want to be like when I grow up. If I grow up, I want to be like them. That's my journey, yeah.
And it's great that you don't have a problem being South Asian as such, because I think the older generation did encounter that. They found that they did not have the opportunities that perhaps you do now, coming from London, and how it's developed as a community.
Yeah, of course.
Which is, I suppose, the reason why you say it's home.
Yeah, of course. But I think there are so many influences in your life, aren't there? Your parents, and what I realised, and I didn't realise at the time, of course my parents had a problem with me wanting to be an actor. Of course they did. Because who in their right mind turns around to their parents and goes, I'm going to be an actor. I'll be brilliant. I'll make some money and I'll look after you. It'll be great. My dad's first reaction was, are you stupid? And my reaction was, yes, I think I am. It's all right. But it takes time, doesn't it, with parents? Like everything else, it's a relationship that you're constantly building on. It's like a relationship with a partner. If you don't grow together, you're going to grow apart. And that's exactly what it is with my parents. My career's grown with them, and they've learnt to accept the fact that I can make a living from being an actor. Not full time, because let's face it, unless you're a superstar, you're not going to make a living from it. But I do okay, and I'm inspired by the people I work with. And there's nothing better than having to wake up in the morning and go, I get to go to work today and do what I love. And I think the older I got, I quickly realised that my parents didn't have a problem with me being an actor. What they had a problem with was making sure that they did the absolute best for me growing up and gave me the best opportunities. We moved from Whitechapel to Harrow when I was 12 because they knew that if I stayed in Whitechapel, I was going to get in trouble, and I was starting to get in trouble. And we moved to Harrow, and they took me to a better school. And I was influenced by those people. I'm not saying everyone that grows up in Whitechapel turns out to be a bad egg. It's not true. It's just I had nothing better to do with my time. I wasn't around people that could influence my life. yeah, parents are a funny thing. They just want the best for you, I guess. But yeah,
So the question of influence is really important, isn't it?
yeah,
Because you're talking about influences that are quite universal in your own career now,
yeah.
as opposed to quite community, ethnic, that's that sort of influence. So do you still have an association through your work with the South Asian community? Like, for example, this play that you're working on.
Yeah, so at the moment we're working on a play based on the South Asian gay community, and we're asking a question of what is their voice and how can we hear their voice. For me, it doesn't matter what the identity of the company is. What matters to me is the content. So you could say that I've done 4 projects which we classify as South Asian. One of them was pretty much after the 7/7 bombings with Rasa, and we worked on a production where about a family who encounter whose oldest son is an imam, and their youngest son is caught up in the radical views. And it's an interesting story because it tells a story of the family and where they are at that state in time when we faced the 7/7 bombings. The second project I worked on was with Mani Yunis, was about a young boy dying in police custody and what effect that has on the family. And also the fact that at the time, not a single policeman had been convicted of death in custody since the 60s. So that for me was a fascinating subject. The 7/7 was a fascinating subject. I worked with Carly on Tagore's Women. And for me, Tagore's Women is a fascinating subject. Tagore is he's someone we all admire from the South Asian community because he was ahead of his time. He was the one that advocates women's rights and voices. He was a Lothario, wasn't he? He slept with many women. He wrote beautiful poetry. He was well educated. He didn't come from a hard background. He came from an affluent background, but still a magical man. And then of course this project, which is again voicing the voices which we don't really hear in South Asian communities. And so for me, it's not about the where the company is from. It's more about the project that we do. But in 10 years, it must say a lot for a young performer who's only done 4 projects with what we identify as South Asian theatre companies. Because I don't feel I can identify with them. What I can identify with is the content, the project's content. Like the 7/7 bombings in my beautiful city. Like someone dying in police custody and no one being responsible for it, and how that affects a family. Tagore, someone that you grow up with admiring, and the gay community, which doesn't have a voice in our own, what we describe as South Asian community. So those are interesting subjects for me.
And would you consider that a label like South Asian theatre is useful or not useful?
I think, I was thinking about this, and I've been thinking about this for a long time. And I think for me, as time's gone on, to begin with, I'd never accepted it. I hated it. I hated the notion of it. Because it pigeonholes you. It turns you into something that you may not be. Cultural experiences that you may not have experienced. Because it's all identified based on the colour of your skin. Now, for me, essentially, that is racism. That is basic level, isn't it? You're judging someone and their experiences based on the colour of your skin. And I don't identify with those stories that are told in those South Asian communities. I had a very different upbringing. We were very family orientated. We were very close. We grew up in Whitechapel. We had dogs. We lived above a shop. so in some ways you could say it was a typical existence, but fundamentally, we're human beings, aren't we? We experience the same thing that someone 10,000 miles away is facing at this very same moment, who does have a shop, who isn't the same colour of my skin, who has children, who lives above their shop, who is probably an immigrant. You know, they're constant. I just have a human story. I don't have an ethnic story. I find that hard to comprehend, because by labelling, what we do is we stop our society from moving on. We stop ourselves from evolving. And that's what I love about London. It's a community. It's when the 7/7 bombings happened, we as a community rallied together, and it was a magnificent sight. I can't stop looking outside your window because it's my city. It's the noises that I love, and so it reminds me. So yeah, I don't think it is helpful.
So, do you think there's a kind of transnationalism that actually informs your identity?
Yeah, of course. You know, I can't forget my heritage. I can't, because it's part of me. It's part of who I am, and it's part of what I've grown up in. There's that brilliant phrase, isn't there, a coconut, which, yeah, I think it does describe me. I'm happy to say that, and it's something we talk about in the play at the moment. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being a coconut, because actually, what you're open to is cultures. What you're open to are stories outside of your own community. Community. I use that in a very loose sense, because what community is for me, it may be something very different for someone else. But my Indian and African heritage has absolutely informed who I am and what I want to do. And I know a lot about my heritage. And what's upsetting is when people who are in South Asian theatre tell me that I don't know about my roots. And it's happened to me a few times. And I think it's brilliant, in a sense, because what you quickly realise is these people have a very simplistic view of what it is to be Asian. They go based on the colour of their skin and what the stereotypes are. And actually, they're not those people that are branching out into the world. I went to Namibia for like 3 weeks, and I felt just as home there, because it's a magnificent place. It's vast lands of roaming animals and these really beautiful tribes which still exist, and this beautiful history of the Germans, you know, coming in, and they still speak German in Namibia, and the 4 cliques which you have to learn for the language, they still have the same universal problems that I have. And I think that's what I find really difficult. I find that really difficult, that first and foremost, what I'm branded with is the colour of my skin, and not the fact that I can... It's this... I know this is going to sound really... I'm trying not to swear. This is going to sound really pathetic in a sense, but I'm really heavily influenced by Shakespeare, especially at the moment. And there's a brilliant monologue by Shylock in Merchant of Venice. If you prick me, do I not bleed? And it's true, isn't it? The same problem has been occurring for 600, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 years. And as human beings, we still haven't learnt the fact that we're causing the same problems by not moving on. If you prick me, do I not bleed? Hell yeah, I'm going to bleed, because I'm a human being as much as you are. Do you know what I mean? We bleed the same colour. I find it really odd. I find it really odd that we're still living in a society where we are still trying to pigeonhole each other. And it's depressing. And which is why I think, in a sense, I've stopped caring about it. When I was younger, I was really angry about it. And the older I get, I quickly realised that the people that I want to be like aren't Asian in the South Asian theatre community. That there's maybe one or two who I admire, but in what we know as British theatre, not white theatre, British theatre, the likes of Paul Hunter, Hayley Carmichael, the theatre companies like Improbable, like Complicité, the people like Madni Yunus who are trying to be more than just, they just want to be artists. They just want to, they want to work, and they want to do good work, and solid work. They work on a very simple foundation that we will try and produce the best things. And I guarantee you, if you go and see one of their shows and you've never been to a theatre before, you'll want to go again. Whereas if you go and see bad theatre, and I'm not saying South Asian theatre is bad, I'm saying any type of theatre, if you see a bad production, you're not going to want to go to a theatre again, period. Because your first influence is, well, your first impressions are, they last. And that's what I love about them.
So all these, your thoughts and your philosophies, what kind of audiences would you like to communicate these to? Because obviously you're a communicator.
Yeah. You're a communicator. Yeah. That wasn't very good communication, was it? I don't believe that there is a type of audience, personally. I think the work that I hopefully do and want to do, and the productions I want to be a part of, is open for anyone. I like to think the story that I will tell with the company of actors that I work with will be universal. It won't matter whether I'm Asian or any other colour. What matters is the stories that we tell are universal, and you can identify with the person on stage, not because of the colour of their skin, but because of the words that are coming out of their mouths, that the emotions that individual is going through, the journey that they're going through in front of your eyes. And that's what theatre is for me. It's taking an audience on a journey, on a spectacular journey, whether they laugh or cry or walk out.
You were saying to me earlier that you write your own stuff, which you perform for yourself only. So,
I don't perform it.
Oh, you don't perform it? Okay.
I don't write my own stuff and then sit at home in front of the mirror. Ah, that's very good. No, yeah.
So how important is an audience to you?
I think audiences are very important. Fundamentally, if we just break down what an audience does, fundamentally an audience will pay my wage. That's the very basic. There's no point lying about that, because let's face it, theatre wouldn't exist in this country if we didn't have audiences. We need an audience to watch. Those are two very basic things. For theatre to be created, you just need an audience there. You don't need to be paid, but if you want to eat and sleep and keep warm, then you're hoping for some payment. I could be wrong, and for anyone that disagrees, that just wants to do it for free, go ahead. When you're freezing, I'll take you in. But ultimately, it's our job, isn't it? We've chosen a profession and we want to be paid because we're passionate about what we do. And I want to eat because I like to eat. Do you know what I mean? But your audience, if it isn't for them, who is it for? You know, you said I write my own stuff and I perform it myself. I don't perform it, but what that does is it gives me an idea of where I am in my life, and it gives me an idea. So it's like a diary almost. And I create characters and things that I may use in other productions. And it just helps your mind take over. And there's something very... Writing for me is more about my own personal... thoughts. It's not about wanting to share it. If I wanted to write something to share with people, I would do it. But I kind of use it more as my own diary. I always write in the third person. And I've written 2 one-man shows, which one was done in Edinburgh, but it was very dark, and it was about a cannibal. Now, I can't imagine approaching a South Asian theatre company and saying, I have a one-man show about a cannibal. Do you fancy putting it on? Because the truth is, I don't think they would take me seriously. It's not the kind of thing I don't think they want to see. Whereas I think if I approach someone like Madney and people like that, there's a chance that he would, well, I mean, he has in the past given me a week's research and development, which we did in Bradford. And work then got busy, so I couldn't go back to it. But it's about engaging our audiences, because sometimes it feels like we've got a set audience. But what we're not thinking about is the audience of the future, the audience that are going to be going to the theatre in 10 years' time, and how do we access them? Do we start at a younger age? Do we start influencing audiences? Do we start taking work into schools? And then what type of work do we take into schools? And then you ask the question of who is the cast? What are the colours that we are going to put into this palette and to present our work? Because we need to see those representations. We need to see a cacophony of colours, like we do in London, like we do in Manchester, like we do in Liverpool, in Birmingham, like we do across the world. It's not just one colour that we live with, is it? It's a range.
So would you say the older notion of South Asian identity is evolving into South Asian non-identity?
No, I think it's a difficult one, because what my parents went through, I will never have to go through. The opportunities that my parents had, I will never have to go through, because they gave me different opportunities. The racism that they faced, I did face racism, but not to the extent of my parents' generation and my grandparents' generation and my great-great-grandparents' generation. What we have to remember is we're an evolving society. We constantly are evolving. But if we're not evolving in what we show, if we're not telling the stories of the community, then surely we're just staying in one place, which is safe. Yeah, I suppose that's the thing. We're staying in a safe place. If we're not challenging our audiences, what are we doing? We're just presenting safe work. And I don't think I want to be part of just safe work. I think I want to be challenged as a performer. I don't want to be rich or famous. I want to be damn good at what I do. And the only way I can do that is by working with people that are going to help me improve and that are going to challenge me as a performer and that will ask me questions that I can ask back. And for me, that's not really available in South Asian work.
It's interesting because we are becoming more and more part of a shared community. And so, therefore, for me, South Asian is almost redundant in a shared community environment.
Okay.
So I mean, personally, I think you get a lot of pressures from outside more than from within. And these pressures from outside actually can have a very negative effect, and it's up to you to find the positive out of that. So I'd be quite interested to hear how you actually find the positive.
I think I found it by just not caring anymore. If I'm honest, I did a play, which I'm not going to tell you which one, which made me realise that I have a choice in the work that I do. When a good production comes up and I get an audition for it, I will try my hardest, regardless of whether it's a South Asian play or not. If it's a good project, I think I want to try and be a part of it if I can. Because essentially, when I look to those people like Paul Hunter, and I'll always come back to Paul Hunter and Kaylee Carmichael, because when I look at them, I go, every bit of work that they do, they put their heart and soul into it. And what they want to do is essentially make the best work that they can possibly make. And isn't that a brilliant philosophy to live by? I just want to make good work. I just want to make good work. I want to be pushed to my limits as a performer. I want to be challenged by the people I work with. I want to know that the stories that we're telling are universal. I want to know that the people that come to see the show are a representation of the society that I live in. It's really simple when you're not angry about something. Because I think when you're angry, like I used to be growing up, when I was a young performer, still am young, when I was a younger performer, you become very bitter about theatre and what it is. And you begin to loathe what you do. And I'm tired. I'm really tired of it. I simply want to look up to those people that I look up to and do the best work that I can do and not have to feel embarrassed when I go on stage. And whether you like it or not, that's my choice. You can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me the type of work I want to do because I'm influenced in different ways. So it goes back to your thing of, is South Asian community redundant? Well, is any community redundant? Because they still have a voice and they still want to share something that they want to do. And that's fine. Just don't tell me I don't know my roots. And don't tell me that I don't know where I come from. And don't tell me that the work that I do makes me a coconut. Because the work that I do, I'm very proud of. I'm very proud to be influenced by the people I'm influenced by. I'm very proud of my CV. Because I've worked hard for it. I've worked so damn hard for what I've done. And I refuse to be pinned down to a colour or a community. I know where I'm from, and I know where I exist in this cycle. We're going to die one day, so I'm enjoying my life for what it is. I'm not bogged down anymore by those questions. We live in a multicultural society where people can be what they want and who they want. So I don't think it is redundant. I don't think any community is redundant because every community has a voice. And I think that's what I forgot when I was younger. And I think it's what you learn when you get older and when you're influenced by other people. That work is readily available to those people that like it. My question is are you communicating to that audience that you're wanting to reach? If we're specifically talking about South Asian audiences, are you reaching the audience that you think you want to reach? And what type of stories are you telling? Are you challenging your audiences? Are you offering them new concepts? Are you helping the young performers that want to go into that area of work? Young writers, young directors? Excuse me, because at the moment, there seems to be a stalemate where we still have the same directors for the last 10, 15, 20 years doing the same similar sort of work. It'd be interesting if they mentored younger directors that want to go into that sort of work, who may be able to actually, rather than tap into the South Asian community, maybe tap into the British South Asian community, which is very different. The plays that my parents watch are not the plays that I watch. We're a generation apart. Now, the problem occurs when this generation, my parents' generation, die out, because they will die out. There will be a time when they have to pass this world, as I will. Now, if there's not an audience to follow them, if there isn't an audience to watch that work, then where is the theatre? What does it become? And does it then become time to evolve? Or is it time to evolve now? Because those people that are making those bits of theatre, who, like me, started with the right intentions of wanting to maybe change things in theatre or wanting to voice an opinion. We can't forget the founding work that they've done, the very foundation of what they've laid down for the likes of myself to become an Asian actor. I hate using that term, but it's what I'm known as, isn't it? In the business that we're in. I'll always be known as an Asian actor. But that's up to people to decide. I'm a human being. But my question still remains, when that generation dies out and you haven't got that younger audience coming in because they can't really identify with what's going on 20 years ago, then what happens to South Asian theatre? What does it become? Will you then decide then, in 10 years' time, when those audiences begin to filter away, that it's now time to tap into a younger audience where you start doing panic stuff, where you haven't thought about the things that you're going to do. You just put on a production that may bring in a younger crowd. It's an interesting question, I think, and it's a question I'd like to ask those people. It's a question I'd like to ask the Arts Council, because let's face it, the Arts Council have a choice on who they fund. They are essentially the government to the theatre. And sometimes what happens is, it's very much like our government. The government will come in, they don't have a clue about the communities and the societies that they're working for, representing. But what they do have is an old concept. I'm not saying it's outdated at all, because there are those generations of people that still believe in that concept. But what happens when the young try to voice an opinion, like the riots across England? What simply happens is we're shut down very quickly, without a voice, and you're told that you're a troublemaker, which is what I experienced, I think. I was very much seen as a troublemaker. And it wasn't that I was causing trouble, I was just simply asking the questions of my peers and the people that I was meant to look up to who couldn't answer me those questions. So you move on to other people, don't you? You start looking to other people to look up to. And I found those people. And you know the answers by making good theatre with a very human, basic human story. Like Shakespeare, which is universal, which doesn't matter what colour you are. I was going to say, well, apart from Othello, because apparently that's, because I'm sure someone would have picked that out and gone, well, actually, Shakespeare's universal. And that changed my opinion. When I worked for the Shakespeare Company, Alison Bomber, who is another influence in my life, she was a voice teacher who I met, and I never went to drama school, so she taught me so much. But what she absolutely taught me was, it doesn't matter about the colour of your skin. What it matters, because I always had a problem with it, what it matters is you're telling a very human story, and what you're doing is you're engaging with a community of audiences. And we would take productions to school where it would be a vast range of colours, because I know colour's a big thing in theatre at the moment. And what we did do was we engaged with young people at a younger age with a multicultural company who are, whether you like it or not, who are the future audiences that will pay to go to theatre. Because let's face it, if you want to do free theatre, that's fine. I hate this notion that we should do something for free, because we work so hard, and we work long hours. We put our hearts and souls into something, and why shouldn't you get something back from that? I think I'm sounding like I'm defending myself, but I am defending myself. But it's the younger audiences that we need to engage with. And if you're just engaging with a colour, when that colour disappears, which slowly it is, because I know a lot of Asian people with partners that are not Asian, so their children are not going to be the colour of my skin. those audiences are disappearing, and very quickly, what happens when those audiences no longer remain, and what happens when they become tired of stories that were told 20 years ago. What we can't forget is the founding fathers of what we know as South Asian theatre. And I never thought I'd say this, but it's true. They did so much for us. But like every government, you have to ask the question, how, like every company, every corporate company, we're now in the market. How do we evolve? How do we become better than we were 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? And the idea of concept as well is, for me, the reason South Asian theatre doesn't work is whenever a classic play is done, we do a classic thing of setting it in the classic land of Asia. there's no... So what we do is we give vibrant colours to a stage, and we put a statue of Kali, and we have these cod Asian accents, because let's face it, if you heard my Asian accent, you would think I was an idiot. It's not that bad, but you know, they are cod, because friends from India do come over, and when I hear their accent, they're so crisp and they're so different. And you look at India now, I'm just using this as an example. As a society, and in the last, let's say the last year alone, how much it has evolved in terms of women's rights, in terms of the rape cases that have now come to become huge in the media, the fact that those men will be hung. A year ago, that would never have happened. India is growing at such a rate that we can't keep up with it. It is. And it's becoming a well-developed country. What we do in Britain is we still think it is stuck in the Raj. And isn't it funny that we're known as the more developed race in Britain? We've developed more than the third world countries. We know so much more. Yet that country is developing at a rate that we cannot keep up with. And our theatre doesn't communicate that anymore. But then I suppose then you have to ask the question of, are the audiences ready for it? Because you look at the play that was done in Birmingham about I think the women that were raped in the Gurdwaras, and the community came out and they were in uproar and they had to stop the production. That was 10 years ago. What happens now if we did the same production? Are we ready for it as an audience? And I think the answer is yes, because of what's happened in India. It will be interesting to see if that play was brought back, what the reactions would be. Are the men still afraid of telling the rest of the world of what's going on in those places? And are the women brave enough to stand up? Well, they are, because India's showing it. Women in millions are coming out and marching and demonstrating, and they're becoming powerful figures. My question is, does South Asian theatre represent that in today's theatre? It's a question. I don't know the answer. It may do, it may not, but it's an interesting question.
Thank you for ending with a question like that.
No, not at all.
Thank you, Dharmesh.
I feel like I spoke a lot.
You have.